For decades, people living on the West Coast have been warned about an earthquake so strong it could produce a tsunami the size of a 10-story building. They call it
the big one.
The big one.
The big one.
Possibility of an earthquake as big as Loma Prieta on a fault under Silicon Valley. A new study finds that two lesser known faults, known together as the Foothill Trust Belt, could produce an earthquake as strong as a magnitude 6.9 every 250 to 300 years.
July 4th, 2019, a 6.4 magnitude earthquake strikes Southern California. The quake struck near the city of Ridgecrest. Then, 34 hours later,
8:21 here on the air. We're experiencing very strong shaking. Wow. I think we need to get under the desk.
At any moment, with no warning, the ground beneath millions of people could start to shake violently. Roads would crack open, power lines would snap, entire cities might collapse. And all of it could happen in a place many don't even know is at risk, the Pacific Northwest. This isn't some vague, distant possibility. Scientists believe we are overdue for a colossal earthquake, one so powerful it could reshape the western edge of North America. And the danger comes from a hidden fault line that runs silently beneath the ocean, the Cascadia Subduction Zone. This fault stretches roughly 600 miles, from Northern California all the way up to British Columbia. It lies just offshore, where the Juan de Fuca Plate is slowly sliding beneath the North American plate. For the most part, this movement is quiet. The plates are locked together, building pressure over centuries. But eventually, that pressure becomes too much. When it finally gives way, the result is a megathrust earthquake, a disaster capable of reaching magnitude 9.0 or higher. The last time Cascadia let loose was on January 26, 1700. We know the exact date, not from written records in North America, but from a different country entirely. That night, a massive tsunami struck the coast of Japan. It came out of nowhere, with no warning and no local quake to explain it. Japanese officials were baffled. For over 300 years, it remained a mystery. But in the 1990s, researchers began connecting dots. They found evidence in Native American oral histories, coastal sediment layers, and tree rings from ghost forests. Stands of dead trees killed suddenly when coastal land sank and was flooded by seawater. All signs pointed to a massive earthquake along the Cascadia Subduction Zone. The orphaned tsunami in Japan wasn't orphaned after all. It had traveled across the Pacific from the other side of the world. That quake in 1700 is estimated to have been between magnitude 8.7 and 9.2. The shaking would have lasted for several minutes, long enough to cause landslides, break riverbanks, and flatten wooden structures. Then, maybe 15 to 30 minutes later, the tsunami would have arrived. Waves taller than a 3-story building would have surged inland, wiping out everything in their path. And here's the terrifying part. The time between major Cascadia quakes is, on average, about 250 years. It's been over 320 years since the last one. In other words, we are already living in borrowed time. When scientists talk about the big one hitting the Pacific Northwest, this is what they mean. A full rupture of the Cascadia Fault could affect everything from Northern California to southern British Columbia. Cities like Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver would be shaken to their core. Bridges could fall, highways might split, power and water systems could be destroyed, and the tsunami could reach as far inland as 10 miles in low-lying areas. According to FEMA, such an event could be the worst natural disaster in U.S. history. More than 13,000 people might die. Another 27,000 could be injured. Over 1 million would be displaced. Entire coastal towns could disappear beneath the waves, and it wouldn't just be a physical disaster. It would be a logistical nightmare. Most emergency responders would be overwhelmed within the first hour. Cell towers could be down, roads might be impassable, and hospitals, those that are still standing, would be flooded with patients. The scary thing is that many people in the region have no idea this threat even exists. The Cascadia Subduction Zone doesn't make headlines the way California's San Andreas Fault does. It's quiet, invisible, but in many ways, it's even more dangerous. That's because Cascadia is fully locked, according to geologists. That means there's little to no slow movement or smaller tremors to release built-up energy. It's storing everything. When it breaks, it's likely to break all at once, unleashing one of the most powerful earthquakes the modern world has ever seen. And the warning signs are already here. Small tremors known as slow slip events are being recorded more frequently in the region. These are tiny movements that happen deep underground every 14 months or so. They don't cause damage, but they indicate stress is building. Some scientists believe they might act as precursors, early rumblings before the big release. But unlike hurricanes or volcanoes, earthquakes don't give clear advance warning. They hit suddenly. And when they do, there's no time to pack a bag or drive away. If you're in the danger zone, you'll have seconds to react. That's why experts are urging cities along the Pacific Northwest to prepare. That means reinforcing old buildings, developing tsunami evacuation routes, and educating the public. But progress has been slow. Funding is limited, and political attention shifts fast. Meanwhile, nature doesn't wait. Imagine it's a quiet afternoon. People are walking their dogs, kids are in school. Then the ground starts to rumble. Trees sway violently, buildings begin to crumble, glass shatters, alarms wail. And just as people are catching their breath, the sirens start, warning of a tsunami that's minutes away. Roads are jammed, panic spreads. And for many, it's already too late. It sounds like a movie, but it's a scenario scientists say is not just possible, it's inevitable. The only question is when. While the Cascadia subduction zone may not be famous, it has quietly earned a reputation among geologists as one of the most dangerous fault lines in the world. Its silence isn't comforting, it's chilling. Because when a fault line hasn't released energy in over 300 years, and it's fully locked, it's not a matter of if, but when, that energy will explode back into motion. To understand just how powerful this zone is, we have to look at the science of subduction. The oceanic Juan de Fuca plate is slowly diving underneath the continental North American plate. It moves just a few centimeters each year, about the speed your fingernails grow. That might not sound like much. But over centuries, that small movement adds up to unimaginable amounts of stored energy. When it's finally released, it doesn't slip gently. It rips open, shifting hundreds of miles of seabed in a matter of seconds. This is what happened in 1700, and it's also what happened in 2004, when a similar megathrust quake off the coast of Sumatra triggered a tsunami that killed over 230,000 people across 14 countries. Or in 2011, when the Tohoku earthquake devastated Japan, causing a tsunami that led to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. These are the real-world examples of what Cascadia could unleash. The only difference? Cascadia is due. And here's something most people don't realize. In many scenarios, the shaking won't just last a few seconds. It could go on for 4 to 6 minutes. That's a lifetime when the earth is heaving beneath you, buildings are collapsing, and roads are disintegrating. The shaking alone will be catastrophic. But what follows may be even worse. Along the coast, people will have as little as 10 to 20 minutes to evacuate before the tsunami hits. This won't be a single wave. It will come as a fast-moving wall of water, often 20 to 80 feet high, depending on location. In some areas, the wave could push inland for miles. Everything in its path, cars, homes, power lines, entire forests will be swept away. And then, just as the water begins to recede, the second wave might arrive. Then a third. Tsunamis don't come gently. They hit in pulses, each one capable of causing massive destruction. And once the water settles, it leaves behind more than physical damage. It leaves isolation. Roads and bridges will be gone, communications will be out. Many coastal towns will be completely cut off. It might take days or even weeks before help can reach them. The psychological shock will be just as devastating. Survivors may face freezing temperatures, contaminated water, and a complete breakdown of infrastructure. Some towns may never recover. So why isn't this a bigger part of public conversation? One reason is that the region hasn't experienced a major quake in modern memory. Without first-hand experience, it's easy to underestimate the risk. People go about their lives unaware that one of the most powerful natural disasters in North American history is waiting just off their coast. But geologists and emergency planners aren't guessing. They've been studying sediment layers along the coast, where sand deposits show patterns of repeated tsunamis going back thousands of years. Some sites show at least 41 major earthquakes over the past 10,000 years. That's about one every 240 years. We're already past that average. And the deeper they dig, the more patterns they find. Some quakes affected only the southern portion of the Cascadia Fault. Others were full ruptures, shaking the entire zone from California to Canada. The worst case scenario? A full-length rupture, just like in 1700. Scientists estimate that in such an event, the ground along the coast could drop several feet almost instantly. This would increase the reach of the tsunami and worsen flooding. Major population centers like Seattle and Portland, though inland, wouldn't escape harm. While they're unlikely to face a tsunami, the shaking alone could destroy unreinforced buildings, damage highways, and cripple utilities. The economic impact would be staggering. One report estimated that damages could exceed $80 billion. Recovery could take decades. And unlike a hurricane, which you can see coming days ahead, a megathrust quake gives no warning. No sirens, no alerts, just sudden, violent motion. So how do you prepare for something like this? It starts with awareness. Schools, businesses, and families need to know what to expect. Earthquake drills, evacuation plans, and basic emergency kits can make a life or death difference. In places like Japan, earthquake readiness is part of everyday life. Buildings are reinforced. Tsunami walls have been built. Communities practice evacuations. That kind of culture doesn't stop disasters, but it saves lives. In the Pacific Northwest, some progress is being made. Oregon and Washington are installing early warning systems called Shake Alert, which can send notifications seconds before shaking starts. It's not much time, but it's enough to take cover, stop surgeries, pause trains, or get out of an elevator. Coastal towns are also mapping tsunami evacuation routes, and some are building vertical evacuation towers, structures designed to withstand both the quake and the wave. But many areas are still dangerously unprepared. Some schools and hospitals sit directly in tsunami zones with no fast way out. Some communities don't even have warning sirens. And then there's the question of infrastructure. Many bridges and buildings in the region were built before modern seismic codes. Retrofitting them is expensive, but ignoring the problem is far costlier. There's also a cultural barrier. It's hard to get people to act on something that hasn't happened yet. But the evidence is overwhelming, and the message from scientists is clear. The Cascadia subduction zone is not dormant, it's just quiet, for now. All of this leads to one chilling truth. We are living in a window of calm that won't last forever. Some experts believe we may not even have decades left. If the wrong section of the fault gives way tomorrow, the result could be a once-in-a-lifetime disaster. And there would be no countdown, no sirens, just one moment of silence, followed by 6 minutes of chaos. The earth beneath our feet feels solid, unmoving, safe. But that's an illusion. For the millions of people living near the Cascadia subduction zone, the ground is more like a tightly wound spring, silent but under enormous pressure. And one day, maybe soon, it's going to snap. The most chilling part is how little warning we'll get. No rumble beforehand, no countdown. One moment you're making coffee, picking up your kids, or sitting in traffic. And the next, everything around you is shaking apart. Skyscrapers sway like trees. Power lines fall. Bridges twist. Then, if you're on the coast, the sirens start. You have 15 minutes, maybe less. A wall of water is already on its way. This scenario might sound dramatic, but it's not fiction. It's exactly what scientists are preparing for. The Cascadia earthquake isn't a theory. It's a proven cycle, and we're sitting right on top of it. But here's the good news. We're not powerless. What makes this disaster different from others is that we know it's coming. We have the data. We've studied the patterns. We can see it clearly. What it will look like, what it will destroy, and who it will impact. That means we can prepare now, before it's too late. We can retrofit buildings, update emergency plans, and install more warning systems. We can build tsunami evacuation towers in vulnerable towns. We can teach kids how to drop, cover, and hold on. We can design cities that bounce back faster after a quake, not ones that crumble and disappear. The time to act is not after the disaster. It's right now, during this rare, quiet moment while the fault remains locked and silent. Because when it goes, it won't just be an earthquake. It will be a region-changing event. The kind that future generations will study in textbooks, asking how well we saw it coming and what we did about it. Every day we delay, we gamble with lives, homes, and history. So ask yourself, if the ground started shaking 5 minutes from now, would you know what to do? Would your family? This is the moment to prepare. Check your emergency kits. Learn your evacuation routes. Support science, infrastructure, and policy changes that can save lives. Because the big one is real. It's not a myth. It's a ticking clock hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean. And the best way to face it is together, informed, and ready. If you found this story important, share it. Let others know what's at stake. Subscribe for more science-based mysteries and survival stories. And most of all, stay alert, stay safe, and never forget what lies beneath.